Welcome to Storyflix. In this video, we will explain Close Your Eyes. This movie tells the story of a blind musician who uncovers the identity of a serial murderer. He uses this information to try and save the woman he loves. Will he finally be able to unite with the woman he loves? Let's find out in Close Your Eyes. Close Your Eyes begins with a woman walking down a lonely street in the middle of the night. The woman was followed by a man wearing a hoodie and a face mask. She is kidnapped by the stranger and taken to an empty room. A blind man passing by the street heard the commotion during the attack, but he kept going. The next day, a woman was found dead with her hands tied in a room. In the middle of the falling snow, the police immediately went to the crime scene to examine the victims' bodies, including Deok Gu. There he saw a red cross on the wall left by the killer. Elsewhere, a blind man named Yin Wu was busking in a shopping center when suddenly a man named Chung Su approached him. Chung Su often visits Yin Wu when he is singing there. But this time, Chung Su tells him that he just killed someone. He even told in detail how he killed the person. Hearing that, Yin Wu became a little scared. He said that Chung Su had lied. Chung Su laughs and finally tells the truth that he is currently writing a new novel about murder. After Chung Su left, high school students who were fans of Yin Wu came and gave him lots of gifts. Moments later, a tired high school girl named Mirim enters a shopping center where she sees that her classmates are swarming Yin Wu. She waited until her friends left and then approached Yin Wu. She looks annoyed that Yin Wu gets a lot of gifts. After that, Mirim, who visits Yin Wu quite often, tells about the discovery of a woman who was killed last night. Mirim remembers that the murder victim once came to Yin Wu drunk and told him that she was getting married soon. Remembering Chung Su's story, Yin Wu tells Mirim to go home because it will soon be dark. But then, the janitor at the shopping center is shocked to see Mirim's injured face. When he asks what happened, Mirim just says that he fell. Mirim then returns to the house where she lives with her father, a violent drunkard. Seeing Mirim gone home, her father immediately ordered her to get him some alcohol. Then, out of anger, he threw the bottle at her and hit her hard. Mirim doesn't dare to fight back and just stays silent when she is hit. Tired of living such a life, she finally decided to run away from home that very night. At the same time, Yin Wu heard a crowd on his way home. It turned out that the police were interrogating passers-by for the murder that took place last night. Yin Wu was reminded of the story again, so he took another path. Arriving at his apartment, Yin Wu took off his glasses and looked in the mirror. All this time, he pretended to be blind. Elsewhere, a man struggles to push his cart down a deserted, uphill road. Suddenly, someone pushed his cart so that he could easily pull the cart to the top of the road. But then, the stranger hit him and tied his hands. The next day, the police found the man's body in an empty room. The police estimated that the killer of the man and the woman the other day were the same person. However, they are confused in finding the motive of the killer. At the police station, handling this case becomes a bone of contention because Deok Gu, a senior police officer, shouldn't be handling it. He then relented, although he continued to investigate the case secretly. He tried to find a correlation where the two bodies were found using the map in his room. Next, along with two of his colleagues, he left the police station to go somewhere. At the shopping center, Yin Wu is visited again by Chung Su. There, Chung Su says in detail that he just killed someone last night. But when he saw Yin Wu getting scared, he immediately said that the story was for the novel he was writing. Then, Mirim, who just got home from school, comes and tells Yin Wu that an old man was the victim of murder last night. Hearing that, passers-by joined in discussing the murder case. Suddenly, Detective Deok Gu and his two colleagues came. He interrogated Yin Wu and showed some photos from CCTV footage showing that the two murder victims had previously visited Yin Wu. Yin Wu replied that the people who came to him only told about their ordinary lives and there was nothing out of the ordinary. Deok Gu still gives Yin Wu his business card, asking him to contact him if he remembers anything odd. Now Mirim works part-time as a shopkeeper. While working at night, she receives a message on her cell phone. The sender of the message asks her to pay the rent for her room because she had been in arrears for several months. Confused what to do, Mirim decides to borrow money from the shop owner. Unfortunately, her boss is unwilling to lend money and Mirim goes home after work disappointed. On the way home, Mirim realizes that she is being followed. But when she looked back, she couldn't see anyone. She tries to think positively while constantly thinking about how she can provide for her needs when she doesn't have any money herself. Meanwhile, Yin Woo, who was also walking home, kept thinking about what Chung Soo had said. The two murders that Chung Soo claims are stories in his novel are similar to the recent murders. Time flies, but police are still unable to find a suspect for the serial murders that haunt the city. Even now, the number of murder victims is increasing. When Detective Deok-gu is having a meeting with his team, a junior police officer enters the room, complaining that the murder case should have been closed. After all, there is no solid evidence to identify a suspect. But suddenly, a call came in. The caller, who is none other than Yin Woo, says that he has clues about murder cases. But he immediately hung up after being asked to come to the police station. Annoyed that the call was closed, Deok-gu then ordered his subordinates to check the caller's location. The junior detective looks annoyed that he should be the one giving the order. After all, he is the one who handles the case. Meanwhile, Mirim, who had just arrived at her boarding house, hesitated when she saw the landlord was waiting for her. Before leaving for work, she remembered the incident when the landlord seduced her. He allows Mirin not to pay the rent as long as she wants to sleep with him. Because she is still afraid of the landlord, Mirim prefers to leave rather than enter her room. On the way, she saw Yin Woo walking alone. Mirim follows from behind, but Yin Woo realizes that he has been followed. Arriving in front of Yin Woo's apartment, Mirim blocks the room door and begs him to stay there overnight. After the neighbors came and saw the commotion between them, Yin Woo couldn't help but accept Mirim to stay. Yin Woo had to pretend to be blind in his own apartment that night. On the other hand, Mirim expresses her love for Yin Woo. She loves his personality and how he is always willing to listen to people's stories while basking in them all. When Mirim was about to hug Yin Woo's finger caught on her bracelet. She tells him that the bracelet was a gift from her mother. Her mother wants her not to let go of the bracelet until she is married. The next morning, the police managed to find the payphone that Yin Woo used to call the police station. They saw CCTV installed on the street, and they used it to track who entered the booth last night. The scene then moves to a room where various knives are seen lined up on a table. On the walls of the room hung photos of the murder victims and the target for the next murder. From the row of photos, there is a photo of Mirim being beaten by her father. Meanwhile, Deok-gu returns to Yin Woo at the shopping center. He told Yin Woo that he already knew Yin Woo had called him last night. Yin Woo tried to deny it, but his efforts were in vain. Then, Deok-gu asked Yin Woo to show his disability identity. While checking the data on the identity, Deok-gu glanced at Yin Woo's eyes to determine whether he was really blind or not. A few moments later, Chung Soo came and asked why the police were there. Yin Woo only replied that he was asked to be careful when he came home at night. Hearing that, Chung Soo just laughed before asking for advice on what kind of murder he should write for his next story. Yin Woo became scared. Without waiting for his answer, Chung Soo casually pointed at a woman passing in the distance. When Chung Soo pointed at the woman, Yin Woo secretly took a picture of his face using a cell phone. He would have almost been found out if it weren't for a woman coming over to them. That night, when he returns home, Yin Woo asks Mirim to leave his apartment. But before she leaves, Mirim asks about the photo of the twins in Yin Woo's room. Since Yin Woo didn't answer her question, she left after kissing his cheek. Then Yin Woo took the photo that Mirim was talking about. It was a photo of him with his twin brother. In fact, it was his twin brother who was blind. His blindness even made him often bullied by other boys. After reminiscing about his past, Yin Woo's gaze turns to the dining table, where Mirim has prepared food for him. Outside, Mirim feels someone is following her. Sure enough, when she looked back, she saw a man with a face covered in a mask chasing after her. In a panic, she ran so fast that she fell in front of the shop where she worked. Seeing other people in the shop, the masked man immediately fled. The next day, Mirim goes to Yin Woo. Weeping, she recounted the events of last night's chase. Hearing the man's characteristics, Yin Woo was increasingly convinced that he was Chung Soo. Chung Soo always wears a hoodie when he comes to see him. So, Yin Woo took the initiative to follow Chung Soo to find out where he lived. Then, the next day, Yin Woo sent a photo of Chung Soo and his full name and address to the police. One night, Mirim doesn't realize that a man is following her to her residence. When she was cooking noodles in her room, the landlord came to seduce her. Mirim throws noodle soup in the landlord's face before she runs away. But outside, the man manages to catch her and sedate her. Then, she was dragged into a room. The next day, while he was busking, Yin Wu thought of Mi-rim because he hadn't seen her that day. Worried, he reports Mi-rim's disappearance at the police station. Detective Diakgu finally finds out that Yin Wu pretends to be blind. Therefore, Diakgu detained him at the police station. Yin Wu said that he lived in an orphanage with his blind twin brother as a child. Sometimes he switches roles to being blind by wearing his twin brother's sunglasses, and it's fun. Until one day, he saw the orphanage's caretaker poison 2 children there to sell their organs. The panicked caretaker told Yin Wu to get out because the caretaker thought it was his blind twin brother. The caretaker then beat the twins. And at that moment, he slowly came out down the stairs and fell. His twin brother died, and since then, Yin Wu pretended to be blind for fear of being caught by the caretaker. If that happened, he would not survive. After Yin Wu finished his story, Diakgu told him that the caretaker had been arrested by the police 7 years ago for child trafficking. But then suddenly, Chung Su comes to the police station and turns himself in. He admits to being a serial killer who has haunted the city. The police immediately arrested him, and the news went viral, reaching the ears of the real serial killer. Meanwhile, Mi-rim manages to free herself and rushes out of the room. Unfortunately, the man who kidnapped her pushed her back into the room and tied her hands and feet back. Meanwhile, Yin Wu, who just got out of the police station, suddenly remembered Chung Su's story that he was a witness to a murder and would turn it into a novel. Yin Wu is sure that the serial killer is not Chung Su but someone else. He started racking his brain to find who had kidnapped Mi-rim. He sees Mi-rim's cell phone in a trolley being pushed by a janitor at the place where he sings. He then followed the man and got into his pickup truck. He was very surprised to find a corpse there. But it was too late for him to escape. The man had walked over to his car. Therefore, he hid behind his pickup truck and went with him. As the man stopped the truck and got out, Yin Wu sneaked into a house. He sees Mi-rim lying on the floor, tied up and her mouth covered with tape from behind the door. Mi-rim then saw Yin Wu. She shook her head to signal Yin Wu not to go inside. Suddenly the man hit Yin Wu with a stick. They then fight fiercely, making Mi-rim thrown from the top floor. Luckily, she managed to cling to a chain, which then strangled the man by the neck. The more Mi-rim pulls the chain, the more the man suffocates until he finally runs out of breath. After that, Yin Wu pulled the chain to save Mi-rim. At the end of the film, the police officers come to the man's house, while Mi-rim and Yin Wu leave the crime scene holding each other's hands. The message of this film is always to be vigilant wherever you are, especially if you are on a lonely street alone. Remember, bad people act when they find an opportunity.